Well, hey, Seven Figure Builder family, this is Julie Baranek, and I'm here with my friend Joey Lowery. Hey, Joey.
What's up? How are you?
I'm fabulous. So, where in the world are you?
Oh man, I am in the sunny state of Florida in St. Pete. So
Awesome. That is,
yeah,
yeah, gorgeous area. I love that. I love that area. Absolutely.
yeah, no, it's definitely fun. It's one of those spots where I feel like St. Pete's like a little movie set town where it's so small, but yet there's just so much going on. And like just this weekend, it was just really cool. Tons of activities outside. They had, I think, a little boat show and just like fun stuff. It's a little small town, so
Yeah, I love the rotating restaurant. That's my favorite.
oh yeah, no, for sure.
Awesome. So, you do all things amazing in ad world, AI world, tech world, SEO, but tell us a bit about your business.
Yeah, I definitely it's diverse. We'll call it that. Yeah, so actually, I started this company, Media Shark, about 5 years ago, four almost now, about five now. And basically, I was working at this artist company. I won't obviously name who they were, but basically working for them, we would basically sell ads to businesses, things like that. Kind of a digital marketing agency and a kind of a plug-in for a lot of agencies to resell as well. And so I'd sell, let's say, programmatic ads or things like that, anything on the paid side. And more or less, I was just losing clients left and right. And from our standpoint, we weren't allowed to be inside the ad, campaigns and things like that. We were really just the forward salesperson, the car lot guy, we'll call it, and front facing to the customer. And so basically, I was losing these clients left and right. And then, finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put on this red cape. At least that's what I thought in my mind, red cape, and I'll dive into the problem and I'll, present this to the owners that, hey, here's a solution to our problems, more or less. And basically, at a conference about 2 years into my job, and I like to say this issue started about 5 months prior to my termination, but I was actually at a conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I brought it up one night, with some helps of some liquid courage, we'll call it, to upper management. And the company's not big by any means. We're probably, like I said, 40, 50 employees. So it's very tight niche, especially for the producers. And more or less, I was let go on the spot the next day. So I can't say I was right or wrong, but I do got a feeling that I was onto something, we'll call it. But yeah, and so I was so pissed off about getting let go, and I decided I was going to name my company after animal that could eat their animal, which was kind of petty, but it was funny. Media Shark, and it started off kind of as a joke a little bit. I really wasn't sure what I was doing, and let's say within a year, ended up landing Sprint and Boost Mobile as a client. We did well over seven figures our first year, and it kind of took off. And then next thing you know, I found myself becoming a business owner and doing all things digital marketing now.
That's amazing and one heck of a journey. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of those ups and downs and some crying and happy moments for sure.
for sure, for sure. So, what was that? I'm going to say maturity for lack of a better term, but like going from square zero, right, to seven figures very quickly. What was that journey like for you?
I think it was really more of a mental one, honestly. I think what it really boiled down to was mindset. And so, determining that, being let go was one thing, and realizing that the bridge was burnt and there was only one way forward. Well, I mean, I could have went and worked at a different job, I suppose.
Right.
But really I was like, I'm going to commit to this. It really was systems and processes and then waking up just every day being hungry. And then I feel like it's such a diluted situation or a diluted what do you call it? Like analogy with this idea that, hey, I'm just gonna wake up hungry, I'm gonna just go get it. But the truth is it really was that. It was really kind of that starve or, thrive situation. And, getting back to the system of processes of knowing, hey, I gotta make X amount of calls, X amount of emails, and set X amount of appointments to get that X, production goal committed and done. And it worked out in the end, we'll call it.
Yeah. Well, when your back's against the wall and you don't feel like you have any other options, you're willing to commit to the grind, right? Like it's doing
Mhm.
those things over and over again, and it's not glamorous necessarily, right?
No, and I think that's the one thing that, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and things like that. And a lot of them, with our conversations are always like, I can't get past this next thing, or, we really want to hit X income. And it's like, man, if you really just broke down the numbers, and found the formula for your success, if you want to call it, what your close rate is from a pickup to a phone to an appointment to an actual sale, you could, just by we call it the algorithm itself, figure out exactly how to do what you need to do, whether it's production, goals, ROI, things like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's reverse engineering just based off of math, right? You want this, you got to do this to get there.
absolutely.
Yeah. And how did your team grow through that? Like you started with just you, and then
Mhm.
what did you need in that journey?
Yeah, so that was actually probably one of the, say, the harder elements, I think, of the maturing process. Even though I feel like I'm an infant still when it comes to the business world, but it started off in the one situation of, what, I need to bring on at least somebody so I can have less of a headache, and then next thing you know, it was okay. I got to devote my time now to training them. Not everybody comes fully trained, and so at the same time, we actually got back into going to digital summit shows, things like that. And so, now I'm having a team that I'm traveling with. I'm learning the situations of Airbnbs to then hotels because obviously we have different genders and things like that, and trying to play the role of a parent at the same time. But it was just one of those things where it's just like it's very interesting when you start from yourself and you just know you can rely on yourself. And when you mess up, you know what the standard should be versus holding somebody else there too, and then expecting them to grow and things like that. So it's definitely been a roller coaster. And man, I believe now more than anything, it's you hire slow and you fire fast.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way. You know,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you focus on a lot of filling the funnel, right? Like you have ads, you have SEO, you have a bunch of different things. But how have you found that everything that catches it plays into it? Like I'm big on relationship-based lead gen, but you
Yep.
need, something solid to catch it, right? Otherwise, you don't really get the impact.
Yeah, I mean, the human element's always going to be there in the marketing world. And I think we forget about that a lot. I think we're over here like, hey, how do I do AI? How do I do SEO better? Make Google happy, or call it the demigods of the internet with Zuck and whoever and Elon. But the truth is it's one of those things where it's an evolution, as a business, and it's like you really got to double down on your marketing, but at the same time make sure that that human element's in place. I know one of the mistakes we had was once I took a step back and got away from the phones and the front to front selling and allowed somebody else to come in because I was managing now a team. It turned into, man, they can't close as well no matter how many leads we're driving, how many more appointments I'm setting, or the team is. If that forward facing human, or that relationship person, is, or if its elements not there, it's almost like it doesn't matter how much you pour into the middle of that funnel. um, yeah.
Yeah, and to the human element, like we see a huge shift in AI, right? So
Mhm.
what have you seen that play out and what do you see ahead of us?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's two parts of that question, in a sense of like, what we think is going to happen and probably what is realistically going to happen. I think everybody thought, with AI coming out, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's a lot of this stuff I don't quite even understand when it comes to what AI could be and do, but it still is based around, the aspect of a human coder, a human's designing this thing. But I think we now are starting to throw it around for anything now that's automated. It's like, oh, it's used AI. And, so in the marketing world, it's been interesting because you've seen now content, and things like that just be rapidly produced overnight. And, Google has had such an influx of all this content and stuff like that, that now it's, almost de-ranking things. So that was an interesting thing that I saw was right off the bat was, okay, now I can, throw up 1,000 blogs in a week using AI. But now Google, sees that across, hundreds of thousands of websites. And
Right.
so now Google's over here like, actually, we need to get better at, seeing who's human and who's not. And now, Google's diving into like neural linguistics and how the language is set up, and human language modeling is more important now than ever. And that's definitely was a curveball I think a lot of people didn't see with the AI aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think personally we'll end up being more sensitive to that. Like I think about, the early robocalls that we used to get, right? And how awful they were. And now it's like, is that a person or is that not a person?
Yeah.
Like it's
Oh,
hard
yeah.
to tell. And it's gotten better over time that we have to become that much more sensitive to it.
I think that, and I think privacy is going to be an issue.
Mhm.
Um, I think the aspect of really what AI can and can't do, is up to the imagination to a point. But I could see a lot of legal options and issues coming into play just because of AI. All the way, again, the machine itself is based off the rules and regulations that the human applies to it. So it's the mindset of that person, or let's say the designer, whether the thing could be good or bad, more or less.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Google earlier, and the rules are always evolving, right?
Hmm.
Like, what are you seeing with the Google changes that are coming out with email, or what are you seeing coming down the pipeline with that?
Yeah, I see Google. I mean, they've been talking about cookies forever, and then supposedly it's officially kicking into play. Especially with the email trackability. The one thing that I think is going to be very interesting is Google is going to shift more into an ad platform than it ever has before. So I believe it's SGC or something like that. Google has a new AI format that they're going to be involved with search, and now Google's only going to show the top three organic, to almost to the right, like a shopping ad at the top of Google. Top three resources, as if they would, like as if the three blogs where they answer, and then the rest are supposedly going to be paid ads. After a certain point, then it'll go organic again. So Google really is going to go heavy into, paid side. And I think that's going to be something that's it's going to hurt and help a lot of businesses, especially the ones who understand that, paid ads do drive traffic for them. They know, that they are a cost-effective means to, produce leads or sales. But I think the people who don't, or let's say haven't been running ads, they're going to run into a harder issue when they've been leaning on that organic content so much. So, Google always solves for money. And, in the day, we like to say Google's there to help us as a search engine, but Google, really cares about itself and, the ads that they can produce with, obviously the money aspect, monetization. I just think people are going to be very shocked that if they don't start learning ads or, getting involved in ads, they could see a huge halt in their organic traffic, in the coming year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's good to both earn your way in and buy your way in, right? To quote Russell Brunson, but like have multi-pronged approach where you're not relying on just one avenue.
Absolutely.
What do you see the biggest gap is with people as they're trying, say they're doing ads by themselves, right? Like they haven't reached out to you yet, but it's not working. They haven't dialed in their dream client. Like what is the biggest gap that you see that people have?
Yeah, I love the Russell Brunson quotes. I'm all about him. So, yeah. So I think it's not even the aspect of like offering messaging anymore. Like if we've gotten so home run, I don't call it knocked out of the park in a way of, hey, hook story offer, not to quote him again, just this whole idea of like, hey, you're gonna get something free, value, value, value. I mean, that's all you hear from Gary Vee and all these other guys. But the truth is, we don't even talk about the different types of ads and formatting and options that you have to run ads on there. And you look at native ads within, the Yahoo ecosystem, and you look at Yahoo, it's the number one financial website, we call it organization in the world. So you want to target a certain type of demographic, run ads on Yahoo. You look at all the stuff that's involved in Oath Media, Facebook, things like that. And I think a lot of people look at ads as, all right, hey, I'm running Facebook ads. It's like, okay, well, are we running different sizes? Are we, A/B testing those things? Let alone if I'm turning on Google, it's like, okay, do you actually understand how Google works? When I'm running a PPC ad, do I actually rank for this organically? And if not, am I driving traffic potentially to my competitors because I don't rank for this keyword? So therefore, they can't find me once they go back and try to research. So that's really what I've seen been the issue with the ad aspect is like ads can do amazing for your business, but it's getting down to the psychology of why the ad is making somebody convert, not necessarily the message and offer, but is it the certain type of ad size and formatting on the website and the web page it's being placed on? Is it an actual platform issue? Is it Facebook, Google, Oath, Yahoo, things like that, or is it TikTok? And I think we just think of like, hey, I'm running ads. It's like, okay, that's like saying I'm a chef. It's like what do you actually know how to cook with and do?
Yeah, for sure. And are there ways that people could potentially be competing against themselves? Like if they're trying to focus in organically in an area and then hit it with ads, or is it more is better?
No, I think yes and no. I think what we see is, I'm with you on the organic side. If you can get organic, it's the best converting traffic. If you're not showing up though, then you almost need to run ads to make sure you show up. But I mean, you should be doubling down organically, in my opinion. But I think I would call it almost like an over optimization. If you're sitting there competing against all these different called keywords or different targeting aspects, but you're not honing in or doubling down on the ones that actually convert, I call it like, this cannibalization in your ad account, just because you're targeting in your mind all, maybe the perfect person, but it's not, because the type of ads are way too spread out. You're not honed in, and you really don't know why what ad is working based off the targeting. And so I think that's when he runs into the issue of like, should you be doing everything you can? 100%. But I almost want to, play the opposite when I talk to business owners and marketers. It's, it's more important to define who your customer is not than it is to worry about who they are. Because if you can really define, and break down all the no's and the won'ts and who this person isn't, you will hone in 10 times more faster than, just thinking you're going to say who you like. Because Google will happily waste your money either way.
That they will. They all will.
Yep. And let's call it the demigods of the internet. They're taking money no matter what.
I know, seriously. And they're doing very well with it.
Oh, they're doing great. Yeah, I wish. Yeah, in the wrong
I,
business.
I know, right? Well, as you mentioned, there's a couple different, well, more than a couple, but there's multiple places you can run ads. Do
Mhm.
you find, certain ones are better for certain things, like, YouTube ads versus Facebook versus Google? Like, where do you steer people with that?
Yeah, I think kind of just depends. I I'm not a big Facebook fan right now. I've really don't. I've have and we have quite a bit of clients that are all over different types of niches, from fortune companies to I'll call it your local lawn company. Typically our budgets are even ranging from the low end 5K a month to well into six figures. Now they're each having their own defined platform. So if I'm a small business, and the way I look at it, it's like, how localized do I need to be? And sometimes, I look at people, look at YouTube and they think, oh, hey, it's a great video platform to watch videos and catch your Alex Hermosi talks and whatever, new thing, the 10x diet thing guys talk or Gary Brecka is talking about. But the truth is, YouTube's cost in the sense per view and the engagement is so much more absorbable and more we call it I don't want to use the word engaging again, but you're just getting so much more for bang for your buck when it comes to YouTube ads. And so I think YouTube has a huge opportunity. And I don't think businesses realize, like, it's not about you being in the video. It's not about your business sense of having a talk person. I mean, there's so many other options in sense of animation and other things that you could run really cost effective YouTube ads locally and see a huge return on your investment. Where I think a lot of the problem sometimes is these small businesses or even just average businesses are thinking Facebook's where I need to be. But the problem is the audience intent while they're on Facebook is not to be shopping or desiring your product or service. So I think that's really the whole issue kind of boils down to. I like, no matter what, keeping some type of PPC ad budget running at all times. And maybe even with a small display ad with it, just to kind of complement it. But I would say right now, YouTube, any type of video opportunity content can kill it. And I think there's a huge thing right now for TikTok as well, if that fits your business model.
Absolutely. And I mean, with YouTube, you can get very specific about where you want to show up, right? Down to like a playlist or a video or, somebody you're following. Like, how do you encourage people in their targeting, say for YouTube, for example, to really make sure they're showing up in the best place?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it starts with your competitor research. I think there's a great quote. It's like, you're only so good as your enemies. And I think it applies to our businesses too. So I think when it comes down to looking at channels, making sure that you know exactly what your competitors are running and what their messaging is. But on top of that, thinking about who's their audience. I mean, there's tons of other cool tools, like I believe it's a TubeBuddy is one of them. And there's a couple other YouTube ad tools that you can utilize. But I think, when it comes to the targeting aspect, again, going back to really defining who isn't your audience, but then also not being afraid to split test multiple videos. I think one of the biggest issues that we think, especially in, advertising, sometimes it's like, hey, this is the home run. This is our final script. And it's like, that couldn't be any more opposite when it comes to what we do. It really just needs to be a mindset of test, test, test. And then when we win, we keep testing though. And,
Yeah.
really honing in on those variables.
Yeah, absolutely. I know oftentimes we get so emotionally attached to a script or like, this is going to be it, it's going to make us a
Mhm.
million, whatever. And it's, you got to do multiple variations of it, multiple iterations. And just, I'm a big fan of, I always think of it as micro conversions, like looking at each individual place in that journey and see, okay, I got people there. Now what's next? What's next? What's next? And then keep optimizing it until you're like, running at full steam. So,
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's like the best thing way, like everybody talks about, I want to date my customer, in a sense. Really, we need to be dating your marketing. Like you need to know why, what, and how it works exactly. Why is the customer converting in this funnel? Why do they convert better on a Wednesday than a Sunday? Just really questioning every little aspect to make yourself, I wouldn't call it a smarter marketer, but just, more honed in. And, I think there's a lot to be said just in that.
for sure. And I know you guys are in a ton of areas and your business is growing, but what do you see out ahead for you this year? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, we're doing a lot more. Well, I'm doing a lot more speaking stuff, tours and things like that. So, yeah, that's been an interesting world too, as well. It's just there's like kind of a two different personalities to the business in the sense of what Joey wants to do and where Joey's going with things to Media Shark and everything like that. So I'm really trying to not step away by any means from Media Shark, but more kind of create more of a, I wouldn't call it a name for myself, but just more with the speaking side. I find it so fascinating and just passion. I'm very passionate about it, just the aspect of helping other businesses because you just see this Wolf of Wall Street type mentality happening right now. And everybody's a guru. I call them a 25-year-old marriage coach. They're everybody's just teaching, and the students are getting messages from all over the place, and there's not a lot of great I'd say great experienced talks going on right now. It's just, keep pushing through, make more money, double down. And, I think there's a lot of frustration. So, kind of make more waves in that world, I think, right now. But, and I think for us, obviously just keep on growing on the Media Shark side.
For sure. And that's a lot of your branding. I mean, just your speaking opportunities, like you mentioned, it's kind of two-sided, but they all ultimately play together as far as getting more visibility and more opportunities, and they just compound from there.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. As a business side, it was cool in the first couple of times where I actually got to speak on stage at like a digital summit or another event. And I will say it's such a different world of being on stage in front of people than just talking like this one on one. And that took a lot of, let's call it, learning curves there, because it's definitely a whole different feeling, all the way from the actual delivery of everything to just getting back to the business aspect.
Absolutely. And I'm a big fan of in-person things. Like before
Mhm.
the show, we were talking about in-person events, and just the human connection that you get with people, I think is priceless. So I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing too that I love about what we do in the marketing world. Even from consulting and teaching and education, it's just like when you look at another business owner, and there's one person in particular I met when I was in Texas speaking. I'm meeting them, and I know their brand, I've seen their brand, but they're sitting there talking to me, and you can just see the passion in their eyes about this is their baby, this business. This is their hard-earned money, this is their money they're putting into it. And what they're asking you is being, it's very vulnerable, because again, this is their livelihood. And so when they're asking advice and things like that, and that's where it gets so unique in this job, because you can get very passionate about that, because you get to see people's lives and businesses change based off of what you're doing. Or worst case scenario, you've seen the catastrophic issues because they took a different route than they should have, or they're coming to you because their business is failing. You know.
Mhm. So a thought on that, you have the luxury of being able to pour gasoline onto somebody's business, right? Through
Mhm.
ads and all the things you're doing. What do you see, or what have you seen where people either have systems or things that can't handle the volume and it ends up breaking, after you pour gasoline on it?
Yeah, so that's a great one. The issue that I think a lot of businesses really don't understand is websites optimization. Like, you can pour as much traffic as you want, but if you don't have the sales process set in place, we've seen that a ton of times where, obviously ClickFunnels is blowing up, go high level because of the layout, more or less. You have a funnel system. Now, what I've seen on the website standpoint is, we've seen huge websites, but they don't, it's called convert very well. And so that's one of those things where, like, sometimes I think business owners, marketers, consultants are saying, "Hey, double down on your budget. Put another 10 grand, put another 100K down. On Facebook ads, Google ads, things like that." And it's like, this isn't an ad problem. This is a website conversion problem. Just because we're driving 500 to 1,000 more people, sure, on a percentage side, you're going to get more conversions because there is, obviously someone's buying something. But can we take that conversion of 2 to 3% to 13%?
Right.
Through some small changes.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
for sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's where I think these businesses, from the mom and pop all the way to the Fortune 500 companies, sometimes, it's just, and again, the audience and who they target, on that spectrum could be widely different, obviously. But man, it's just the converting aspect of, if when people land on my website, do they find what they know and need and basically want to, acquire, get whatever, immediately? And if not, then how do we fix that? And it even gets down to the, colors on the pages and things like that that perform better than others. And that's just one of those things where it's like you could spend, I mean, you could pay agencies tens of thousands of dollars to come in and make the most aesthetic pleasing website. And it might be beautiful, but it's just shit on conversions. And I think
Yeah.
that's where, we see a huge issue right now in the business world is they're throwing money at something. I call it highway marketing, just driving down, throwing money at it. And they don't realize that it's not, the ads, it's their house, it's their website that actually is the issue.
Yeah. And that's where it's so important to work with an expert, right? That can give you that insight because, if people go to your website and so often they have no idea what you want them to do. Like you need
Yeah.
to make it blatantly obvious because you have this much of their attention span before they bounce. And you can pour as much gasoline as you want on it, and they're all going to bounce if they don't know what you want them to do.
Yeah, and that's a hard part too, I think, from a business standpoint. And what I really like about podcasting and, being in person is, we can be vulnerable. We can say things, it doesn't have to be one of those things where it's like, I call it the sales pitch, where it's like, oh, this perfect ad world where you get these perfect ads, get the perfect customer situation. You can be vulnerable and actually talk about some of the issues. And I think that's one of those things that businesses aren't being told. It's, you come to, let's say you go to Media Shark and you talk to myself or one of the team members, and it's like, hey, we want to spend 20K a month. It's like, okay, great. Well, let's take a step back though. Like, what's your actual system look like? How's your current conversions going? Does the website look good? Versus, I think there's so many marketing agencies and consultants that are just like, oh, you have 20K? Oh, yes, yeah, yeah. Please come
Sold,
here.
done. Yeah.
Yes, sold. Yes. Oh, you have a website too? Oh, didn't even know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's what really good partners do is they say no or wait or,
Yep.
hey, have you thought about? And I come from a consulting world, so that's just where my brain goes. But if your
Mhm.
partners aren't doing that or challenging you on what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish, yeah, we can do all this busy work, but is it actually going to get you there? You know, I
Yeah.
think you got to stop and ask yourself some questions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's coming back to the, reason I got let go was because of that.
Yeah, you
They, and I
asked the
can't,
wrong right question,
yeah,
unfortunately.
basically, yeah, and the reason, and I also saw the reason the other guys and girls weren't asking those questions was, and I was definitely one of the younger ones on the team for sure, but we were making 25, maybe 30K a month, and a lot of the guys and girls were married and had kids, and I'm, I joke as single Joe over here, and I didn't know what was right or wrong in the sense of like, or like I didn't know why they were ignoring certain things, but obviously they had their safety and their things, this was their career. For me over here, I was just like, hey, how do I save my clients? But I really have taken that feeling and let's call it that empowerment of wanting to make sure that everything's done correctly, really into this world, at least from our standpoint with the people we work with. But another huge issue that I see too is this white labeling that's been going on. I mean, you'd be shocked by how many agencies that contact us wanting us to basically be their fulfillment side, not and their customers have no idea that we're running their ads, which is fine. I get that's how the business world works, but I think a lot of businesses don't realize that they got management fee on management fee on management fee all being billed into this system, and they think they're working directly with this agency,
Yeah.
but really there's 4 or 5 brother sister agencies behind them doing all the work.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it just compounds the fees that you're spending because you're paying many layers of people, which adds up really, really fast.
Yeah, or you see that in the retainer fees all the time,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
right. Exactly. And you've accomplished amazing things in your business, but what does success look like for you?
I don't really know, honestly. I know that sounds such a bad answer. I can say what it doesn't look like. I really enjoy the aspect of the freedom of what, this business has allowed me to do. Don't get me wrong. I feel like you're, as a business owner, you're chained to the business too. I don't want to give that aspect of like, oh, it's just, whatever. But honestly, I think for myself, it's just being able to accomplish more. I think for personally, traveling is one of those things I just love, experiences. But, seeing us hit different levels, not necessarily revenue based, but just more in the award aspect or speaking gigs that I'm landing. I think that was a big step for me was going from no speaking to, being on a 16 city tour last year. And then, now getting on these one-off opportunities, here and there. And I think that's going to be a big one for me. And the business wise, it's kind of hard to say, just because it's like you could get an award or you do certain things. It's like, are you happy in what you're doing? And I can say that's kind of where, I guess I call the line of, success is just right now I feel successful because I'm very happy in this whole world of what we're doing. So
That's awesome. Yeah. And if is it fulfilling or not for you? I mean, you can do a ton of busy work, but you can just be spinning your wheels in the end too.
yeah. And I guess let me say this, I love building little small businesses. So like building a website, testing a theory, business I have no business really being in, whether it's a solar company, roofing to pet CBD, like just the aspect of like building a website, finding out how to get organically ranked. I have a lot of fun in that. That's something I really enjoy. Just because you're testing your own theories versus having businesses, that you're trying to give advice to, and you're like, oh, I know you guys could do this so much better and differently if you were to take it this route. So that's something I really enjoy on the side. So I'll call that one of my success areas that I enjoy.
I love that. I know we tend as entrepreneurs, we tend to be problem solvers. Like we want to take something and just figure it out and make it work and, really see it sing, which is really cool.
Yep, that or put our hands in too many cookie jars, we'll call it. So
Yeah, there's that too.
just a little bit.
All right. So if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
I'd say like if you know if you're in your head, you're dead. And I think that's one of the big things that I've learned and I've seen, from marketing to entrepreneurialism to my personal life, and just the success we've had in a very short timeline. Just from the aspect of overthinking everything, getting in your head and not making the moves, and being afraid to take the step, especially in the personal side, quitting the job or, being fired or taking the leap to, start your own business. The more time you spend in your head, the more you're dead and the less actions you take. And, when it comes down to that, there's only really one or two options that you're ever doing. It's going up or down. And if you ever think you're maintaining, you're just decreasing at a rate that you just don't see it. So, really get out of your head, and stop being dead.
Love that. That's kind of like analysis paralysis, right? Like we just think things through and you just can't make a move.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you see it all the time. It's the aspect of, and I think sometimes even in businesses, we just don't see it because there's just 90 other things going on. I was just working on something personally for our business this morning. And I, of course, I had two client calls come back to back. And one was kind of an emergency. So I derailed everything. And I'm like, shoot, I got to get back and finish, that original task. And, staying organized is also its own paralysis, we'll call it.
For sure. So where can people find you online? People that are hearing this, they would love to work with you. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can hit me up at gomediashark.com. We just redid our website there. Or, personally, if you're more of a, intimate or personal questions, things like that, I'm that marketing guy on Instagram. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we will have all that in the show notes so people can come check you out. And thank you, Joey, for being on today. This has been awesome.
yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Of course. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.